Hello all, thanks for joining. Can you guys hear me and can see the screen? Please confirm in the chat. Good evening all. So yeah, please do let me know if you can see the screen. Anyone? Manikanda, Vasant, uh, Patel. So can someone confirm in the chat whether you can hear me? Oh, okay, perfect. So let's wait for 2 more minutes. Okay, so let's see if someone joins. If not, we'll start the session. And today is a demo session, by the way. So we will see what is the syllabus part. And if you didn't saw it already, the the due course, right? So what and all you'll be seeing throughout the course, and yeah, so it's not only Linux. Okay, so yeah, that's the important thing. You'll be seeing uh, basic containers as well as basic VMware. So anything related to sysadmin we'll be discussing for sure. So yeah. In the meantime, you guys can introduce or you can give a basic idea like you are from IT or non-IT because our course is for both IT and non-IT. So yeah, anyone ready, you can drop a message or if you want me to unmute you, I can unmute you. No problem. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so let them join. If someone is joining, they can join wishes. So let's start on time at least. So yeah, once again, welcome to the Linux new batch. So Linux administrator, it's based on this RHCSA exam. So we will be discussing what is that exactly later. And Karthik here. So I'm your trainer for this Linux batch, and this is my 20th batch. So this is the support email. If you have any queries related to the course or anything related to the payment, course, recording, notes, any such queries, you just drop an email to this one. I will just post it in the uh, chat also so that you can make a note of it. Yeah, support at the rate logiclabstech.com. Okay, and just a quick general information. So these are all the things we can um, go through quickly. So the first three sessions will be free for anyone. And from the fourth session, it will be only for the paid candidates. And by the way, this is a paid course. Okay, so it's not a free one. And the first two sessions recording will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. So I'll be giving the YouTube channel's link. I'm already having it handy. So you just go through this link. Let me put it in the chat. So yeah, you can go and see this one. My previous batches is also there. So the first two sessions will be the demo, right? So you see here. And yeah, my previous weekend batches also you can see here. Yeah, this one. Sorry, this is from Sunil. And like that, if you just search for Logic Labs Tech Space Linux, you will end up in a lot of previous batches recordings, and you can go through that and see my way of approach. And it will be purely practical. Okay, so yeah, don't worry about that. We'll be discussing those anyhow. And yeah, so please don't do the any batch shifting and there is no refund either. Okay, so please make sure you join the right course. And if you're really having any issues, do let us know in the support mail. Okay, and Please do join the WhatsApp link. Or if you are not part of the any such groups already, previous groups, this is the WhatsApp community channel link. So let me put it in the chat again. So please click on this join chat. It should automatically redirect in your if you joined from mobile, it should redirect you to the WhatsApp app. Or if you are joined from the web or your laptop or desktop, click this join chat. It should redirect you to the WhatsApp web and it should join the channel. So anything related to our course, like let's say one day I'm not available or the notes. Obviously, notes will be sent in a different link, but that link will be shared here. Okay, so like that. And yeah, so that's how this one works. So yeah, and we are using a LMS as Graphy. So I'll be showing you. Yeah, this is the Graphy one. Uh, yeah, this is the Graphy. Okay, how to enroll everything I'll be showing in a moment. And the support team you are reaching out, right? So let's say you are having query with some course, right? So you need to uh, inquire. So the right time would be from Monday to Saturday between the business hours, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. IST it is. Okay. And these are all the contacts you can call them directly and you can drop an email as such. So yeah, they will respond. Okay, so these are all the social media links as well as the official website and YouTube channel, LinkedIn, everything is there. So please do follow us. And this slides will be sent to you. Okay, so from that also you can fetch it. So yeah, this is the course. And little bit about myself. Karthik here. So I done my RHCSA certification not long back. It's like almost like 1.5 to 2 years ago. And yeah, so I've been training from that time. So also I'm having around 6 years of experience, and currently I'm working in an MNC as a platform engineer, which uh, which is of both Linux as well as an application in support or application engineer. Okay, so yeah, I need to handle both. So that's the thing. And currently we are handling more almost like 10,000, like 9,800 servers we do handle. So like that. And coming back to our course, so what is Linux is very basic and very important question in your career, because this is one of the question which will literally redirect you to a different path if you can't understand the potential of the Linux, right? So also, is it essential? Because it's not been a latest technology. Like, let's say you heard a Docker or any like Kubernetes or Terraform. So these are all latest. Not these are also a bit old. It's not like the latest one like DeepSeek or this kind of AI tools and all. But the point being, Linux has been around 30 years, 30. Okay, so those many years, it span around these many years, but still it is relevant. How it is relevant in IT especially. So I might address it as IT or enterprise or companies, all are same. Okay, so that's the thing. Sometimes I might mention it as just IT or company. Let me zoom that, right? Yeah, or company or enterprise. So all are same. Okay, so why it is still relevant, we will be discussing. Firstly, what is Linux? So Linux is just another operating system, which is not as same as Windows. Why I will, over the course, we will see evidently why, because I will, every new topic we will see, I will compare it with Windows as well as Linux. So that you can easily understand, because Windows, almost everyone might be using Windows or Mac, and obviously, like you might be familiar with the GUI, right? So now, quickly we will see what is GUI and CLI, because CLI is what important for, or like your Linux is tailored based on CLI. Okay, so what is GUI? Firstly, we will see. So GUI full form is graphical user interface. So CLI is command line interface, and there is one more thing called as TUI, text-based user interface. So firstly, what is user interface? That we need to discuss, right? So UI is nothing but is what you see now. So basically, I have my cursor, I have my keyboard, right? So let's say I am typing something, right? So I can see through my monitor. So all the input and output device are there, but what is the underlying factor which is too important, which is your user interface, how we are going to interact with the machine, either via graphical, that's what we are seeing now. So your Windows is the best example for GUI, right? So Windows OS. So Windows operating system is the easiest, and almost everyone might be already using that, right? So your Android phone or your Mac OS, all even Linux also has a GUI version. We will be installing GUI version only. Okay. And what is CLI and why CLI is important for any enterprise? Because CLI, to be frank, so this will be a bit controversial, but to be frank, CLI is much more efficient than GUI. So as of now, we are used to GUI that we never experience CLI. But in companies, if you see, GUI very rarely or almost every tool has a CLI variant, and that is what preferred by the companies. Why? Because to be frank, that's the most productive one, right? So that's the reason Linux is preferred with the CLI, and we are obviously going to use that. And now you might question that, okay, CLI involves a lot of commands, and obviously it increases the difficulty of that tool or anything you're going to like anything you're going to make out of that OS. That's not true, or that's not wrong at the same time. So just to clarify, like you obviously commands are needed, but it's good actually. So once you are getting used to that, that's what this is the breaking point, that if you are interested to go or pursue this approach, or you're going to go through a developer approach. So there are two career paths. So now is the right time. You need to choose between, because if you are really not interested in going through this CLI or not CLI in general, I'm not generalizing that, but just this is a different career path. Like you will be going through a DevOps, or we will see that SRE role, like that. It's a totally different one. Developer side, that is a totally different one, right? So that's what this is the right factor, and you landed in a right course. That's the important thing. And yeah, so your CLI is nothing but even your Windows has a CLI, a command prompt, right? So this is a CLI. Whether I can double click this and I can go to this directory? No. I can simply, can I do uh, create new file? Can I type like this? Obviously, no. It doesn't recognize that because it's not a command. Whatever command is needed, you must be typing that. So cd c colon or cd c colon. Now it works. You're getting the point, right? So only if you're using the right command and the right path, it did detected and it changed the directory to C colon. Yeah. So that's how CLI works. So you must use the right command. And to be frank, and it's a disclaimer that it is the easiest thing, guys. So it will be very straightforward, every command. And over the course, we'll be seeing at least 100 to 150 commands. 100 to 150 commands we'll be discussing. Okay, so now going back to the same question, and TUI is nothing but it's combination of both GUI and CLI. We'll be discussing TUI once we install the Linux. I will show you that. Okay, so there is an example with that. So, but that's not that relevant. Very few tools only uses it. It's not in a wide range. Anyone uses it. Okay, so that's the most important thing is how you're going to communicate with the system. So from the basics we'll be discussing. So that's the reason this course is for the beginners or non-IT people also obviously can benefit from our course. Okay, so now going back to the square one. which is what is Linux. So again, Linux is an OS which is using the CLI in an efficient way. In which context? In obviously enterprise. So why companies prefer this, right? So that would be your question. So why? Because there are a lot of factors dial in, right? So let's say you are. So why we prefer Windows? Obviously for portability, right? So right away you can use it, and it's easy to use. Anyone can understand within minutes, right? So that's the reason for an end user, Windows is much more appealing because easily you can do certain things. Even a small kid can somehow figure out Windows, right? So that's the main thing, as well as the speed also you can tell, and lot of factors, portability and compatibility, Windows, right? So like that, lot of things. Linux also checks all these boxes. And for enterprise, performance is the most important thing, which Windows lacks drastically. Why? That's a controversial statement, I agree, but that's how it is. Okay. So you need to understand why. So because Windows has a it is also at the same time Windows is initiated, or like Windows is being brought to the world, but why Windows is not as popular or as important as Linux? Because Linux has been used in our Android phones, your IoT devices like your Raspberry Pi, or even a basic CCTV camera, right? So there also Linux is there. Your car infotainment system, right? There is also Linux. So almost everywhere you see, there is a some sort of Linux is there. Again, it's not pure Linux. Some hints of Linux is there, right? So it's evident that it won't be extinct, right? So, and this is the right thing, that okay, you choose on a right path, right? Because Linux is a necessity now. So without, obviously developers also need to have that Linux knowledge. I will come back to that statement later, why developers also needed that knowledge. But that's the main reason it is still relevant, because it is compatible to almost any such devices. It's even more than Windows. So the hence companies prefers that, and the cost effective, because Microsoft is a closed source. So now is where we are going to see much deeper what is open source and closed source. Again, we are not deviating from the topic, but please do listen to me that we are getting there. Okay, so we are going to see the syllabus part anyhow, but just to give a context, because few people might be very new to IT itself, right? So you might not have an idea. So the point is, what is closed source? First, I will explain closed source. So in Windows, right? So one sec. So in Windows, so is there a possibility for you to change the settings or any such tool, right? So let me go to control panel. So can you edit this mouse to some other icon or some other things? No, right? No one can. Or if you try to edit also, after a new Windows update, it will be what? Replaced. Okay, so it will be reverted back to the original state. Okay, so that's the reason, because Windows or the Microsoft has the full control of this. It's a proprietary OS. So it's owned by Microsoft. And same thing goes for your Mac OS. And in Mac OS, you can't even do what you can do here. At least you can apply theme. Even I applied a theme here, right? In Mac OS, there is themes, but only selective one. You can't customize it. At least Windows allows some customization. In Mac OS, that has also been restricted. So that's what called as closed source. And why companies have that and why it is preferred? Obviously they take the blame. So let's say some tool is not working. Obviously, you can reach out to the Windows support community or the actual, if you're already subscribed or something, you can reach out to the official Windows support team itself. They will uh, rectify your issue, right? So that's the reason it is closed source. It is easily supportable by anyone or the Microsoft person, right? Official persons. So that's fine. But why open source or what is open source? It's quite opposite. So all the important thing or even the kernel. So let me show that. Uh, let's say I do have it. Yeah. So he's the one who initiated the Linux kernel, not the whole operating system, just the kernel. And based on his name, only Linux is there, right? So his name is Linus Torvalds, hence Linux. And Linux is based on Minix. That's a previous OS. So it's a fork of Minix. So fork means it's almost like a copy. Major things will be like replicated or copied. Only few changes they make, but he created his own kernel. You see this one, and you see the number of stars here, right? So, and you see number of folks as well as the contributors. So this is the important thing, why it is open source. So anyone, and even you can contribute something to the code if you really know something about coding or in general and operating, building an operating system, right? So almost like 16,000 people contributed to build Linux. Okay, so in order to build this OS, these many people came in, and it's not an end, right? So even you can or anyone can at least contribute since it is an open source. Again, it's not the whole operating system, guys. Don't think like that. This is a kernel of an operating system, and kernel is nothing but a heart of an operating system. Just imagine it as a heart of it, and it's too important, right? So you can't avoid it. So this is the one for Linux in general. Again, not Red Hat or something. In general, this is the one. Okay. So now we answered these two, right? So what is Linux? We saw that. And why it is still relevant? Because it is portable and this is open source and companies can create their own version of their Linux. Now it's getting interesting, right? So they can build they obviously they will fetch an Red Hat or some Ubuntu or something, but they can customize. So whether you can customize here, no. Whereas like let's say you can to a certain extent, but in Linux, whatever application you want to run and how long you want to run, even that much extent you can customize, which is unheard of in any other tools. Okay. So that's an important one. So now let's move on to the next one. And now purely the syllabus part we are going to discuss for another 20 minutes at least. So please, if you're having any doubts, do drop a message. Okay, so we'll answer it at the end of the session. So yeah, our course is built on top of these five pillars. Okay, so the first one is your user management, or this is the path, your course path. So it is the user management, and why user management is too important for any OS, not only Linux. In general, user management is too important because obviously you're going to manage your own company's employees' data as well as let's say you're a service-based company, you're going to support and manage your clients' data as well. So that must be protected at any cost. So security should be there as well as the if there is any multi-factor authentication or how critical the data is, right? So and Linux is known for the security, right? So you might have heard a lot of news about ransomware or a lot of things like based on Windows. Mac you might not heard, but mostly Windows you might in official news itself you might have seen that news like channels, but you might never heard of Linux. And it's not like it's unbreakable or something. It's breakable, but there are very less hackers who is obviously trying to break because hackers also use this Linux. The irony is they also prefer Linux. Okay, so they don't budge to hack or they don't create a malware or adware for Linux. Okay, so it's that important. Again, many factors. These are all the few factors or many factors that companies prefer this, right? So yeah, so that's what like user management, and it's like we will be seeing what is the how a user is from the basic how user is created, which files are affected based on that the new user, and how to provision a new access. Everything will be discussing from basics again. Okay, and the next one is disk management. Okay, so disk management is what we lack, or as a end user, we don't care much about disk management because it's our own laptop, right? So let's say this laptop, I myself or at least my family members or my friends might use, but in an enterprise, obviously it's not like just 5 people or 6 people might use. It's like at least 1,000+ person might use, right? So 1,000+ people would use for sure, or even more than that, right? So it should be organized and there should be a access metrics, right? So there should be a restriction that, okay, this application team can only see these files. They should not even see another file, which is owned by backup team, like that. There should be a hierarchy structure, and how does that implement, right? So all these we'll be discussing in the permissions, which is another topic, but in comes when it comes to disk management, it is one of the important role for a sysadmin because you are the only person who has the privilege to edit anything here. Let's say you are going to partition. So I have around almost like 500 gigs, right? So I'm going to partition it. So how much size I want to allocate to, let's say, team X, how much for team Y, right? So you need to obviously they will give the requirement. You are the one who has the privilege to allocate it. All those we'll be discussing in the disk management. Again, this is the most important topic for a sysadmin, especially. And what is process management? So at the end of the day, it is all comes under a or it is an operating system, right? And each and everything, even a simple click, that is a process, right? So in Windows, it is generalized as system. You scroll to the very last and you see system or something related to UI, it is generalized here. It's not like showing, okay, even a simple task or even a simple click, right? So if you hover your mouse around, you can see like simple graphical changes, right? That's not being captured in this task manager or any process, but in Linux, each and even a small thing, even the thing which you're searching for, even that will be a process. At the end of the day, it must be processed through an CPU. So anything processed will be captured. Okay, so that's what you're seeing here. There is a foreground process, background process, and your operating system process. So that's what you're seeing here. And yeah, so this is the Windows one. So that's the same way only in Linux also it will be, but it will be much more evident that you will have much more metrics. Okay, so yeah, okay. So let me show you the services like this. There is a process ID will be allocated. How many are running, how many not running, disabled, everything will be there. We'll be discussing extensively what is process management. And the next topic is how to diagnose it. Let's say something went wrong in the process, how you can approach it. That is a very key, very much important or a key skill for a sysadmin guys. Why? Because anyone can become a sysadmin, but at the end of the day, how to become an uh, more than a sysadmin is to have that analytic knowledge or to have the problem solving skill. What is that then? Because you're any issue you take, you can simply dial down into 10 issues only. Maximum, you will have at least 10 issues in your environment. Maximum of 20, let's say. 20 issues are there. Now, everything you can jot it down into 20 issues. But an efficient guy or an anything you can call him, right? So he's a guy who can solve it also, who will make sure it won't happen again. That's important, right? So just solving anyone can do, even a fresher can do. But what's in for you? You are the one who is assuring the team that it won't happen again forever, or at least for next 1 year, until the remediate some remedy is being implemented. Until some changes is implemented, it should never happen. So uh, one more thing called as postmortem report. Okay, so let's say some major issue happened in your team or in your application. So you are the one, or they will as the sysadmin, that what went wrong in the infra level. Infra is nothing but infrastructure or your system. Okay, just to call your server or your system, it will mention as infra. Okay, or infrastructure for the people who are very new to IT. So that's how we address it. So your anything or any major changes in your infra is affected. Obviously, it will be a widespread issue, right? So everyone under the same network might not be accessing that website, or might have a issue accessing it. Like that, like so many issues will be occurring. So that's what called how you are going to approach it. That's why you're going to troubleshoot it. That issue, obviously, you must troubleshoot, and you are the only one who has the privilege to troubleshoot. That's the important thing, right? So that's the server troubleshooting. Mainly, it's not part of the exam, guys. Okay, so the server troubleshooting, not only that, few topics you see here, it won't be part of the exam. Okay, so we will discuss what is that exam and topics and all, but the point is, it's we are not going to target only the exams part. Obviously, the course is tailored based on exam, RHCSA, but not only that. Okay, so as a generic Linux admin, and once you're done with our batch, you will be like from the beginner to intermediate level, you will have a knowledge, and you are new to IT. That's the important thing. Okay, so yeah. And lastly, we have basic networking. And why I specifically mentioned basic, because networking as a topic or as a subject itself is a huge thing, right? So obviously we can't cover the whole networking concepts. So we will be discussing what and all needed for a sysadmin. So that's the reason I mentioned as basic. And what are all the topics I will discuss in a moment. Okay, so now what is this RHCSA and what is this exam code? So RHCSA, but before going to that, we need to understand what is Red Hat. That itself we didn't discuss, right? So before going to Red Hat, so since Linux is open source, or Linux kernel is open source, many developer stepped in and they created their own version of Linux, right? And still it has been, it's not like okay, so it's an old technology or something. So still, people do create their own version of Linux, and even you can, once you have a practice and once you understood how the open source works, everything you can also do. And these are all the uh, like open source Linux variants, or it is called as distros. Okay. So Linux distros or distributions. Okay, so in short, it is called as distros, and you can spot Red Hat here. Okay, so why I'm going back to Red Hat every now and then, because that's what companies prefer, and you do have a lot of things. So these are, even now you can install Mint, MX Linux, Cache, Debian. Debian you might have heard, Ubuntu you might have heard, and in colleges still people use Ubuntu, right? So obviously you might have heard Kali Linux, um, if one of your friend or even you as a security analyst, you might have used Kali Linux, right? So like that, you have a lot of operating systems. Even Oracle has li- their own version of Linux, right? So like that, lot of Linux distros are there, and in that, companies prefer almost like 72 percentage companies prefer Red Hat. Why? And why they dominated. So Red Hat as a company, it's a huge MNC now, and it's been acquired by IBM few years ago. Okay. So it's under IBM's belt. Now, why Red Hat only succeeded in this enterprise market? Because they targeted the support. Okay, so they targeted enterprise from the early stages, and they had the best support ever. Okay, so like that. And what is support then? So companies, let's say, obviously any OS, it's not the best things or something, right? So obviously there will be some issues. So if there is an issue, Red Hat has a way to approach, and it's an efficient way companies thought so, and companies like almost like it is kind of a monopoly now. It's like 72%. It's almost a monopoly, right? So that's what Red Hat will be there for many years. Okay, so it will dominate, and it's not like okay only the operating system, and the operating system name is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Okay, so in short it is called as RHEL, and they don't only own an operating system, they have their own suite of softwares and tools. Okay, so yeah, so if you see all the products, they have a plethora of products, right? So RHEL is obviously the first one, and OpenShift is there. Okay, so your new Linux AI is there. Okay, so OpenShift is again an uh, a- there is even an OCP. Okay, so OpenShift Cloud Platform is there. You see cloud services, right? Virtualization is there. JBoss is there, right? So like that. Even Ansible is owned by Red Hat. Guys. You see, Red Hat Ansible automation. So yeah, they have lot of tools under their belt, and hence IBM acquired them. Okay, so that's the reason they dominate the industry, especially the enterprise industry. Okay, so hence we are preferring their certification. Okay, so RHCSA full form is Red Hat Certified System Administrator, and it's an entry level certificate. It's not the advanced one. If someone is immediately typing some command that, okay, is it an advanced one? No, it's an entry level, but there is around 19 certificates are there in Red Hat. So it's not the end of the day. You need to practice, and you can obviously appear in any all the 19 exams also you can clear if you have the patience and knowledge, and you can really clear it if you are passionate enough to pursue their OS, and it's not going to be extinct, okay, or obsolete. For sure, Red Hat will be there forever. Okay? So yeah. Okay, so moving on to the syllabus, this will take at least 10 to 15 minutes, so please bear with me. Okay, so hopefully I will quickly go through these, and please do drop a message if you're having any doubts. Okay, so yeah, fine. So obviously we'll be discussing about the introduction of the OS in next session, as well as the essential and advanced commands. As I mentioned, at least 100 to 150 commands we'll be discussing in our whole batch. And it's not like, okay, only those commands are enough. Yes, almost it's enough, because there is around 3000 plus commands are there, guys, without any um, like any tools. Obviously, let's say you're in using Docker, you're again going to introduce 20 plus commands using Docker, right? So like that, without those third-party tools, inbuilt itself, there is around 2000 to 3000 commands are there. So we are not going to see, or no one in the Linux courses will explain all the commands, and it's not relevant also, right? So only the relevant or essential commands, and the advanced commands, like let's say you're going to monitor something and how to monitor it continuously, right? So something is appended, everything we'll be discussing in this course. Okay, so the very next session we'll be doing the installation part, and I mentioned RHEL 8 everywhere. So we can obviously we will be using RHEL 8, but the current version is RHEL 9, 9.4 to be precise. So you can either install from RHEL 8 to 9. I'll be giving you the RHEL 8 OS, don't worry about it. But if you really want to install the latest one, again, there is not much difference between RHEL 8 and 9, guys. Okay. But don't use RHEL 7. It's obsolete. Okay. So even in our company, we are doing a migration. Okay. So or upgradation from RHEL 7 to RHEL 9 directly. Okay. And still companies use RHEL 8 and 9. So both are almost same, like 85% same. Okay. RHEL 8 and 9. So you can either install RHEL 8, which I will give, or you can use RHEL 9. I will give the link for RHEL 9 as well. So tomorrow's session will be installing this one. So don't worry about it. And you'll be installing in three methods. I'll be showing you. So one is in your local machine, how you're going to install through VMware. Okay, so again, what is VMware? It is a virtualization technology. We'll be discussing what is that in a few moment, or maybe tomorrow's session itself. I can explain, no issues. But yeah, that's your local mission and in cloud. So either AWS or GCP. AWS is obviously Amazon Web Service. GCP is Google Cloud Platform, and you can use Microsoft's Azure. But with Azure, there is an issue, which is for a student only, they are giving you trial. So if you are a student, obviously opt for Azure, but still you need to provide few verification details. But the point is, there is an option for a student. But as a working professional, you need to pay for Azure. Not there is not even a trial version or trial period is there. So better opt for AWS or GCP or local mission. I personally prefer local mission since I'm training, right? So, but there is no harm in using AWS or GCP because you're doing the same thing, right? So you're doing in your mission, or if you are having only the enterprise or your company's laptop, obviously you can't install any third-party softwares, right? So in that case, you don't have a choice. So you must use AWS or GCP. I will show you how to do, and all are free methods, guys. Okay, so there is you need not pay any penny for labs, especially labs. Okay. Now, what is performance monitoring? So performance or what we are going to monitor? That's an important question, right? So firstly, what is system resources? So your system resources is divided into, you're already seeing that in the screen, right? So you have CPU, this is your system resources, CPU, GPU, disk, network, and the most important one, your memory. Okay. So CPU, memory, and GPU, right? So these are all your hardware, and your disk is obviously you must save something and somewhere, right? So that's obvious. Disk must be there, and without network, you can't do all mostly anything nowadays, right? So network is also an important thing. So we are going to monitor these system resources. And how we are monitoring now, you can already see it, right? So this is a task manager in your Windows, and this is a real-time data. Currently, this is my CPU usage. But is it enough, or will it be the same case in your enterprise? Yes, but not. It won't be not only for one mission. We are talking in a volume of thousands of servers. So in that case, obviously you can't have thousands of screens, right? But you have an option to do a configuration in the monitoring tool or tools. So what are all the or how to configure an alert in monitoring tool? So I will try to include that in my course. Means at the last, if time permits, I will try to show one of the monitoring tool like New Relic, Grafana, Dynatrace. So there are so many tools, ITRS, Genos, and ELK Stack. It's a huge list. Okay, so Splunk. So each has its own use case. So Splunk is a log monitoring. Dynatrace is an application performance monitoring APM tool. Grafana is again an infra monitoring, right? So New Relic is again an infra. ITRS is also an infra one. So like that, it's like a huge list of tools. Again, each are separate tools, guys. Okay, so we are not going to use everything because each company has their own use cases or own agreement with certain companies, right? So they won't use every monitoring tool ever, right? So ever existing. So just understand how to create a alert in one of the monitoring tool. If time permits, I will just give an intro to one of the tool. If not, I will include it in my resource page. Okay, so you can go through that, right? But this knowledge is an important one for a sysadmin guys. Okay, so the next one is the user management. As I mentioned, how like we'll be seeing the manipulation of the users, so how to create, delete, modify the local users. And why I specifically mentioned as local users is there is one more way of user management, which is called as Active Directory, which we don't see in our course because it's an advanced topic. Okay, so and it involves Windows Server. So yeah, I will, if you are really interested, I will give a link to a blog or some other learning resources, but we won't see Active Directory in our course. Okay, but yeah, so that's the reason I mentioned as local users. And what is Active Directory? We will discuss while we see the user management. I will explain at that time a basic hint about what it is. And the next one is how, again, the basic things, how to change the password and the password management tool, right? So those things and the super user access. So that's an interesting way of user management, super user. We will discuss that extensively. And moving on to the next topic, so which is the basic OS concepts. In any OS, you will be doing an archive. Archive means compressing an old or as of now unwanted data. It is an important one, but as of now you don't need it. So you'll be doing a cold storage of it. So that's what archive means, and how to access a server remotely using SSH, which is called a secure shell. We will again discuss these all later. But yeah, how to search for a term in your text. Again, basic things, right? So essential tools like copy, move, delete, create, right? All these tools we'll be seeing at least in one or two sessions. Completely, we'll be discussing about the basics. So if you are very new to IT or Linux, you will understand it. Right. So again, the file manipulation, create, delete, copy, move, everything. And we'll be seeing what is link. Again, hard link, soft link is there. And the most important one is the file permissions. So how the access metrics or the access control works. Right. So because as I mentioned before, not everyone is going to be allowed. Right. So there is a certain restriction and how it works, and it's a very interesting and easy way, guys. Okay, so in Windows they somehow complicated this thing, but in Linux it's too easy, and we will see that, okay, for sure. And the next one is sysadmin activities. So as a sysadmin, what you're going to do? Firstly, you need to understand the booting procedure, right? Which we will maybe, yeah, next session we'll be discussing that booting procedure. Then we'll move on to the installation part, or maybe in the Friday's session, we will be discussing the booting procedure. Okay, so either way, in the demo batch itself, I'll be explaining that because as a sysadmin, that's an important, the most important knowledge. Why? Because you need to understand the criticality of your system, right? So where it is stuck, let's say you're turning on your machine. So how, like typically, let's say your laptop itself, you're turning on your laptop, but it's not turned on completely. So where it's stuck. As an end user, it will be a bit hard for you to grasp it, but it is stuck somewhere. So you need to understand the steps. Then only you can figure out where it is stuck, right? So that's the most important one. And hence, this is the one of the oldest question for a Linux admin, which is in the interviews, right? Which is what is the booting process or booting procedure? So you need to jot down all the steps, and yeah, we will be discussing that extensively. Maybe in next session, for sure, we will be discussing that. Okay, so that's these are all the same points only. How the boot, reboot, shutdown, all these signals works. Again, it's a signal. Okay, okay, and now what is the different targets are there, and how to interrupt the booting. Let's say your OS is booting, how to interrupt it, and how to retrieve something. And if something is broke, let's say unintentionally you made a config change and it broke the system, how to recover from that. All that we'll be discussing here, and how to identify the CPU and memory intensive processes. So let's say something is consuming a lot of memory, how to find it. So obviously you'll see in my case, it's almost like 88% memory is utilized. So who is the culprit, right? So we need to understand that. If you just sort it in the UI, clearly you can see Google Chrome is the one, because I have many processes under Google Chrome, right? Now, the point is, it's not only Google Chrome is the one, because memory is a controversial one, which is any tool or any service is loaded in the memory. You see, memory is zero for only system interrupts, which is literally there is no use of it. Other than that, at least 1 MB is there. Why? Because obviously everything must be loaded in the memory. And why? Memory is the fastest storage. Again, storage. Okay, so that's an important one. We will discuss why I'm stressing memory, right? So we will discuss that later anyhow. But yeah, how to identify a CPU and memory intensive process. And this is an important task for a sysadmin, guys. This one. Okay, so we'll discuss that. And how to tune a profile. Again, that's an easy and straightforward topic. And how to locate an log file, a system log or a journal log. What is log? Basically, any system which is even in my current system, my Windows machine also stores some logs, right? So your Zoom, right? So the one which we connected, even that stores a log and sent to the admin. Like that, anything you do in your mission will be logged. Just like we remember our memory or our events, right? So there is a thing called as event log. Even for that, there is a log. So you are connecting your pen drive or connecting your charger, everything will be logged, guys, in a system. So why it is logged, and will it or is there a need to preserve that log? That's a call you need to take it. So let's say you're an application team. Obviously, you prefer application logs. If you're a backup team, backup logs are a must, right? So each team has their own preference, and it's not a generic OS for everyone, right? So each team has their um, individual servers, right? So it's like thousands of servers will be there, right? Each team can segregate their own use based on their use case. They can log something and they can fetch it, right? So that's the thing. And how to preserve a log, because few logs it will be vanished, right? So after a minute, once the log is there, it will be keep on appending or keep on adding new lines, right? The old log will be gone or overwritten. So how to preserve it? That's the one. And how to monitor the services, like how to start a service, stop it, restart, status, all these things we'll be discussing for any services. I mentioned a system. You can apply this for almost any services. So this is what called as process management. We need to firstly understand what is the current status of the process, and if it is really not running, you are the one who need to troubleshoot it, right? So that's the one. And how to, obviously this is a basic one, how to transfer files between different servers using WinSAP from Windows to Linux, And between Linux servers, you can use ACP or rsync. Okay, we will discuss that in the while we discuss the topics, we will discuss that. Okay. So the next one is your disk management, and it is called as LVM. The LVM full form is logical volume management. Okay, so that's your LVM, and you can create a new LVM. You can create, destroy, extend, resize, like that. Lot of options on commands are there with LVM. We will discuss that and why it is an important one. Let me give a basic idea. So in Windows, whether we can do this one. So let me, yeah. So let's imagine there is a one more disk. There is a new disk of 500 gigs. Can I combine two disks and call it a day? Let's say my C partition is almost like 200 gigs. I want it to be 300, but I don't want it to use from this existing one. I want it to share the new one. Wait, either I can do that in Windows. The answer is no. There is no native way to do that. Obviously, there are some third-party tools, but natively it doesn't allow. And if it does allow also, the third party also is not reliable. There is no surety for your data, right? So that's the thing. And in Linux, it's done in a seamless way. You won't complain because it's by default that option is there. So logically, you're going to create a partition and you can dump almost like any disks. So in practical, we'll be discussing that. So then you can easily grasp it. So extensively, we'll be discussing this. At least 2 to 3 sessions, we'll be discussing about the disk management. Okay. And there are few more like what is a file system. And because just like that, your disk can't be used. So there is a certain norms. That norms has been decided by your file system. There's a thing called as file system. And it's not like, okay, NTFS is mentioned. It's not only NTFS, it's many other, right? So what are all those, how it works, everything we'll be discussing and how to format it. Again, it's a basic, we'll be seeing step by step. So obviously through that step, everything will be covered. Don't worry about it. And how to troubleshoot if something went wrong in the disk. That also we'll be discussing. Okay. And status and video is a advanced version of LV, advanced topics of LVM, and it's part of the exam also. So we'll be discussing these two for sure. And we are almost there. So please stick for another 2 more minutes. I should complete this one. So what is security? As I mentioned, security is one of the key element in any operating system. And in Linux, obviously, we must ensure that it is secure. So that's the reason the key-based authentication we are going to use. And it's not like, okay, only in Linux we have, obviously in any such OS or even not even OS, your AWS uses key-based authentication. Okay. So we will see that anyhow. But yeah, this is an important topic. And what is firewall, right? So there is a two types of firewall, hardware level, software level, how it works, everything we'll be discussing this one. Okay. And what is SC Linux? And the full form is Security Enhanced Linux. Okay. That one we'll discuss. And this is like it will protect almost any files and directories, right? So even directories it is protecting. So yeah, that's your SC Linux. And how to restrict an user to use only certain path and to use only certain commands. Let's say I mentioned a while ago, you can use 2000 commands are there. But what if you're allowing a person to use only 5 commands? Okay, that too, the one which you assign to him, only those he can access. And you can do those, you can go till that extent also since it is open source, right? There is no restriction almost since you are the root user or you are the admin, sysadmin, right? So obviously there is no restriction for you especially. So literally whatever is required will be accomplished by you. Okay, and this is one of them. Based on the requirement, we'll be doing this. Restricted user, how it works, those things. Okay, and as I mentioned, basic networking, how to configure the IP as a static IP. Again, what is static and dynamic? So dynamic will change every reboot, or if the network interface itself is restarted, the new IP will be populated. Whereas a static IP, it is nothing but, as the name suggests, it is static. It won't change for anything or since it is assigned to that particular system, right? So that's the thing. And we go into set and host name to the server, and we are going to troubleshoot if something went wrong in the network services and how to uh, configure the routes and all. Okay, so again, I didn't mention those topics, but we will be discussing those anyhow. Okay, so that's your basic networking, and almost the last two topics are containers as well as VMware vSphere. So these two are not related to Red Hat or Linux in general, but containers you must know. As a sysadmin, it's like a necessity again, just like Linux. So containers, containerization, you must have an idea, and we'll be taking Podman as an example since Red Hat owns most of the shares of Podman. Okay, so again, you can go with Docker, and Podman is almost like Docker only. So yeah, it's an efficient way of Docker, you can call it. So that's the one we will be discussing, configuring the Podman and how to create a startup service with this one. And there is an exams question based on containers. So obviously, you can assure that, okay, you can clear that question, right? So the next one is VMware vSphere. And what is firstly VMware itself, we didn't discuss. It's a virtualization option. So easy example is we are going to use all these resources, but in a virtual environment inside the same base OS. So as of now, it might not make sense, but in uh, in next session I'll be discussing that. Okay, so that because we are running out of time. So yeah, again, this is an paid session, and it's around 4,720 INR. Okay, so this is the course fees, and the duration is the whole course content is around 4 weeks. But if you are having any doubts, it can extend. Okay, so the content wise, it is around 20 plus days will be there, excluding the demo, right? So 3 days demos are done. After that, 20 plus days. So if you're having any doubts, and doubts are welcome anytime, so you can, the days will extend based on your doubts. Okay. And yeah, so the timing will be every day, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, not weekends. Okay. Yeah, today is the first demo batch. So yeah, is there any doubts, guys? Any doubts in the topic? And quickly, let me show you that. So once you're done with the batch, let's say you had or you done with the day 25 or something, 25th day, right? So you can, or you are eligible for these roles. It is sysadmin or Linux sysadmin, and again, it's like not right away, but you can call yourself as a senior or someone, but you can at least 0 to 2 years of experience. You will have a knowledge. Okay, and the next one is DevOps guy. So DevOps engineer, and it's not only Linux is needed for DevOps, right? So Linux is a base. So on top of that, you're going to use Git. Again, on top of that, you're going to use some CI/CD pipeline. On top of that, containers, right? So the list goes on. Terraform is there, right? So at least 5 to 10 tools will be there, and 10 methods are there, right? So not methods is not the right word. 10 stages are there. right? So it's not only based on Linux, and you can call yourself you can't call yourself as a DevOps guy if you just know only Linux, right? So it's a base. On top of it, you need to have. It's not like okay, you should or you must master Git or any such tool. At least if you have a basic idea, you can become as a DevOps guy, right? And whatever roles I'm mentioning, it is a necessity, guys. You must go through Linux because if you see CI/CD Jenkins, it has its own CLI version. Git is obviously CLI, and your Docker CLI is there. Kubernetes CLI. It's almost anywhere you see CLI, and it's basically running on top of Linux only. So if you know the basic Linux, you are good. So hence I mentioned developers also need the Linux knowledge, right? So again, developers, it's not like okay, they are going to run in some random OS. They are going to run on top of Linux only. So they must have the basic knowledge, at least the basic, what is a file system, or at least few commands they should have. Okay, so if you are already an existing developer, this course will be a refresh for you, right? So yeah, and we are not done yet. So you're having SRE and SR will be at the last. So the next thing will be a platform. So what is a platform engineer does, which I do is I do both Linux plus and platform as a service or a, yeah, let me call it as a service. Okay, so let's say there is an uh, in-house tool or in-house service, and you're going to support that, including your OS. So both you're going to do. So that's what platform engineer does. And what is SRE, which is site reliability engineer. And as the name suggests, you're going to make sure the server is reliable even after the automation. So now is where you're going to see automation, which is a repetitive task. So let's say you're going to do a patching. Every day there will be a patching of some server because we are talking in a volume of thousands of servers. So some server will be patched on the weekday or weekend, anywhere, right? So how to automate and make it ease, right? So that's what SRE does. And obviously, right away, no one can become an SRE. And if they become, they will have a hard time, right? So because it's meant for at least 8+ years, at least 8 years, right? So it's not an entry level job, but for SRE also Linux is needed. You're getting the point, right? So for any such any of these career paths, Linux is the baseline. So hence Linux is a necessity for these. Okay, fine. So moving to your questions, after course can we repeat? Repeat the course you're asking? Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, you can study. It's a like it's a refresh, right? So you can go through that, and yeah, so yeah, you can go through that. But and this is the exams question. So don't worry about this link. I will share it. So this is the exams question. And by the way, I also got almost the same questions. Okay. So, and like all my batches, I share the same questions and same resource link only. So you can trust. Okay. So many clear the exams. And so, because one important thing why I'm going through this, uh, even if I don't have this question paper, you can clear the exam. Why? Because it's not a dump, first thing. And anyhow, we are seeing the whole topic. Let's say user management. If you don't have this question, if I ask a totally different question also, you can answer the exam because you are familiar with the command once we see the topic. So anywhere I will train a topic, we'll be seeing a question as an example. Okay. So that's how, or the exams question I will take as an example. So easily you can grasp it, right? So even though the same question doesn't appear in your exam, still you are having the knowledge of it. Hence, I mentioned it as a generic course. Obviously, it is tailored based on the questions or based on this exam, but in general, you can clear this uh, exam at ease. Okay, so there is no sorry, it's not that hard. Okay, so yeah. And this exams cost is around this RHCSA if you're planning to do, it's around 20K INR. Okay, so 20,000 Indian rupees. And in dollars, it is a bit more. So almost like $350, I guess. I'm not sure the exact rate now, but yeah, this is the fees for that. Okay, RHCSA. And again, it's an entry level course, okay? So after this, you can do RHCE as well and much more, okay? So, but RHCSA is more than enough for you. Once you have the practice of Ansible and all, you can appear RHCE. Okay, so yeah, is there any doubts? Anyone? Feel free to ask any doubts about the course. So I just mentioned the URL for this question paper or a resource. So just copy this and paste it here and you just bookmark it. Okay, so it's not restricted or something. So it is an open link. Anyone can access it at any time. So you just open it and you can see the question paper here, RHCSA Q. Okay, not only that, you can see the installation files. So I will suggest you to download these two files because these two are the huge files. You see the size of it. It's like 600 MB as well as 9.43 gigs. So if you are planning to install in your machine, try to, or if you are eligible to install in your machine, please do download this. I will give you the info about the requirement. Basic requirement, obviously everyone will be met with the basic requirement. It should be at least one CPU core should be there, 1 gig of memory, 20 gigs of disks. Okay, so yeah, so obviously everyone might have this one. And how to see the CPU core count? Just go to your task manager, click on performance, click on CPU. You will see the cores. I have 6 core. In your case, you might have 6, 2, 4, 8, 12. It doesn't matter, right? So each laptop is unique and you just go here and check it. At least one should be there. That's the important thing. Okay, so or at least two. So one is for your base machine and one is for your VM you will be using. And if you are not ready to install, or if you are have using an enterprise laptop, try to uh, go through the cloud. You'll be seeing that also. Don't worry. Any more doubts, anyone? Like any questions on the course or on the like the recordings will be sent through this portal, guys. Okay. So yeah. So you just go through this link and you can enroll for the course and recordings will be sent in this portal only, including my notes. So any notes will be posted here only. And if you are having hard time accessing the recording or notes, do drop an email to support@Logic Labs. Okay, so they will get back to you like what went wrong or something, right? So yeah. So in tomorrow's session, we'll be discussing the booting procedure and what is which virtualization and containers, right? So we need to understand the difference between those, what it is exactly. So that was also an important one. Okay. So yeah, guys, then. So if there is no doubts, I guess, yeah, that's it for the day then. Let's see in tomorrow at same time, 8 p.m. Okay. So kindly join. Thanks all then. Have a good one. Bye bye.